Hello and welcome to the Global Luxury Real Estate Mastermind with me, your host, Michael Valdez. Today's guest, my God, needs absolutely no introduction, but Ryan Serhant, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the show today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Listen, it's you have basically in 12 years built a global brand. I mean, that is basically unheard of. We're going to start dissecting all of this, but I want to start by take me back to the beginning. You were raised in Massachusetts, right?
I was born in Texas, but I grew up in Massachusetts, outside Boston.
Nice.
But I bounced around a lot when I was a little kid. Moved like 8 times before I hit 4th grade.
What?
Always making new friends it was tough. And then we settled down when I hit 5th grade, and then I switched schools 3 times, and then settled down for high school. And that's where I realized, you know what, maybe my thing is theater. That was like the one thing I liked. And then I went to college in upstate New York, and then came to New York City to try theater professionally. You know, just like I'd rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried.
There you go. But wait a minute. But you've tried a lot and you've succeeded a lot with a lot of things. But wait, why did you move so much?
My parents for work. My parents for work. My parents were in finance and different jobs and bouncing around all over the place. It wasn't like a military kid or anything.
Yeah.
And my dad also was like one of those people who really didn't like neighbors. And so if like someone built a house too close to us, he would literally just move. So like the house that I finally grew up in Topsfield on Hill Street, if anyone's listening to this from the North Shore of Boston, 120 Hill Street in Topsfield, famous for the Topsfield Fair. It was this neighborhood that was like house after house after house. And then all of a sudden there was this massive stone wall, and there were, and then 60 acres of nothing. And then our house was like right in the middle. So we were protected from neighbors. And so to like see any friends, we'd have to like.
You have like a little moat and alligators too? Like what?
No, but our driveway was a mile long. It was the worst.
Come on.
And my parents are the types of people too, which again, I regret. I resented it so much when I was a little kid, but like, you know, our jobs were shovel the driveway when it snows in Boston, right? It was, hey, pick up the weeds, pick up sticks, do the yard work, everything. I mean, it was just nonstop manual, like outdoor chores, labor, painting, things like that, which was just the worst. But I think about those days a lot, you know, ever since I graduated college, because it's what pushes me to work so hard now. Yeah. So I never have to pick up another stick or pull any more weeds for the rest of my life.
So actually, I read somewhere that your father really sort of instilled in you that entrepreneurial spirit. Was that because you had a mile of driveway to start shoveling in the winter in Boston?
Yeah, he instilled in me a real understanding of work, right? What it means to actually work, which is different from going to work or doing a job, right? But really what it means to work and what a real work ethic is that can produce results versus just being busy. And so, you know, and he had an aesthetic eye, and he would like, you know, he'd be very tough on us. And if the yard wasn't mowed the right way, it was out of pure laziness on our part. And he made us write, I had to write a 10-page single space essay when I was 10 years old about the importance of not being lazy. It was the worst, hardest thing I've not ever, but like when I was 10, the hardest I ever had, it was just like, I can't even imagine doing that to my kids now. If I had a 10-year-old now, could I with a straight face tell them, you didn't hang up your coat where you're supposed to, now go write me an essay? Like, would they even do it? I don't even know. Different times back then in the early.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but that's what he instilled. And it was a relentless work ethic that was you'll quit when you're dead type thing.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know.
I think it was a different era, right?
Yeah. I mean, my dad he's born in the 50s, and, his mom died when he was really young. His older brother died when he was young. He had to like basically raise his own family. He had his first kid when he was 18.
Wow.
He has a really, really interesting story, incredibly, incredibly smart, very strict, no time for bullshit.
Yeah.
And the most honest person I've ever met to this day, to a fault. And sometimes it's probably better not to be honest. Sometimes it's better just maybe not to say anything. And he doesn't know how to do that. And so, it takes a lot. And so he's not for everybody. But like, growing up too, like you knew around him if you were doing a good job because he would tell you, and you knew he wasn't lying. And you knew when you were doing a bad job because he would tell you and you knew he wasn't lying. That also helped me a lot for kind of work now, kind of where I am now and with other people, right? I think honesty in that level is far easier at the end of the day than the alternative.
It's the sense of integrity that is lacking in our industry a lot at times. And when you actually have that inherent in you, it does make it makes you stand out.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you have built. All right, but before we get into all of that, so you came to New York and you started with your acting and modeling, and you landed a soap opera, and that was what, in 2006 or something, right?
So I moved to New York City in 2006. The soap happened in 2007.
Okay.
And that took me right to the beginning of 2008. And I played Dr. Evan Walsh IV on As the World Turns, which was really, really great up until the writer's strike, which at this point was, 13 years ago. But that really killed the majority of the soaps and killed a lot of scripted production, because a soap opera gets written, they write a full hour-and-a-half episode every day.
Right.
And if you have no writers, then you have no episodes. And if you have no episodes, then people won't tune in, and then they churn on to other things. And so I got onto that. I thought that was like my big break. It's gonna, it was huge. It was insane. They would like deliver scripts to me the night before at like restaurants I was at. It was super, super cool. And then they killed me. I got that script. It was exactly as if you had imagined it. Like everything was fine, totally normal. And then one day it's like my grandmother kills me on the rooftop.
Literally, that was it. Your grandmother killed you?
Well, we were wrestling with a syringe that I apparently had been using to kill everybody else, because they were firing a lot of actors because they were trying to cut back on costs. And so they have to die. And so I just kept killing them. I killed Dusty Donovan. I killed all these people. And then my grandmother found out and tried to stop me. And I pulled out a syringe and we wrestled. And apparently my grandmother is just a beast.
Apparently she could wrestle you to the ground.
And wrestled the syringe right into my heart, and I died.
That's so believable. That's amazing. It probably happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. And then and then very shortly thereafter, I kind of ran out of money. In the meantime, to also pay bills, I was hand modeling. I held phones for AT&T for a while, and held like Nespresso capsules and all the random stuff that you see photos of people's hands doing.
Right.
I did that. That actually paid way better than the soap, by the way.
Did it?
Yes. Dude, the soap, like after tax and all that stuff, was like, you'd work a whole day and you get $500. The hand modeling was $150 an hour.
Well, look at that.
Yeah, it was great. It was like way better. And I didn't really have to do anything other than like massage my metatarsals. Like my fingers wouldn't cramp up. And then I ran out of money. And then it was the summer of 2008, and it was move home to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, where my parents were at the time, because they'd moved out of Boston when I went to college.
Right.
And they bought a ranch, and they lived on a ranch, and it was like I could move.
They had space, and they had no neighbors.
Yeah, 100%. I could live on the ranch, work on the ranch, paint fence for the rest of my life, or figure things out, or I could get a survival job and stay in New York and figure it out. Right. And it was,
And the survival job became,
it was either wait tables,
right?
bartend. I took a bartending class. That sucked. It was get temp work. My girlfriend at the time was like a temp receptionist in a bunch of places. And so a lot of actors and, people were doing temp work. Or what a friend told me to do is, listen, you do this acting thing, right? Real estate is the same. All you have to do is put on this character of a professional, memorize information about buildings and streets and stuff. Like, you don't even have to have experience, just memorize. When you memorize information, people will believe you. Put ads on Craigslist and rent people apartments. Rent one apartment a month, and you get the other 29 to 30 days a month to do whatever you want. Do your hand modeling, do your whatever. I was like, okay, because bartending and waiting tables were set hours.
Sure.
And I had tons of actor friends at the time who were missing auditions and had to get time requested off of work. And it was like their survival job became their job, and then acting was a hobby. And that was the last thing I wanted to do. So I said, screw it. I got my real estate license. And I started renting apartments, posting ads on Craigslist for apartments that didn't exist, meeting people on the corner by Starbucks on 49th and Madison. I'd have my pockets loaded with keys, and I would take people around and just, show them things. And if they rented something for $3,000 a month,
right,
I was a brand new agent. So my split with the house was 50-50, and commission was typically 1 month's rent. And so $3,000, 50-50, it's $1,500 in my pocket, right? If I could rent something bigger, I'd make even more money.
Yeah.
And that was it. My rent was $1,100 a month. At the time, I lived at 38 West 31st Street in Koreatown. And my food was not that expensive. I ate the same food every day. And it's not like I was buying bottles at the club. I didn't have that many other expenses. And that was my goal, make my expense budget. Everything else is gravy and buys me time. And I just became, honestly, I just kind of became addicted to the work, because trying to be an actor in New York City, you spend a lot of time waiting. You spend a lot of time being rejected, right? You spend a lot of time spending money, acting classes, acting coaches, right? Networking events, just trying to get seen. You spend a lot of time. I would stand in Actors Equity audition lines in Times Square from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. to not be seen.
Oh my gosh.
But because it's union rules that if you are a union show, you have to open up your roles to everybody. But most of the times they're just casting their friends anyway. But you got to do it. You got to stand in those lines, do the best you can. And so then real estate rejection was not nearly as bad. And it was never personal. It was never about my face. It was never about my voice. It wasn't about the color of my hair. It was, we don't want to live in New York anymore. Or it was, we took another place, or we had already been working with someone else. So we're moving forward. And so even though that was annoying and would suck, I was able to weather the rejection a lot faster than I think a lot of other people, because I'd already had that thick skin built up from, being told I was too tall, too this, that, right?
So you went back to your work ethic that you got as a child when you were looking at the real estate, if you start thinking about that, right? Because it was the idea that here's something you could control, right? You couldn't control the acting. You were waiting for them to call you. But here was something where you could actually be proactive and control the outcome of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as best you possibly can, right? There's a lot in this business that I can't control.
Right.
Most things, especially other agents. But I can control the work I put into it, right? There's two quotes that really have kind of governed my life. When I moved to New York, it was what I said earlier. I'd rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried. Mm-hmm. So it's you know what? I could move home. I could play it safe. I could take the LSAT. I could go to law school. I could just go get a regular job, see what happens. Or, dude, if I don't try this, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Or I'll wake up when I'm 57 or 72, and I'll be like, wow, I do only have one life to live. Why didn't I ever even just try? I never ever want to feel that way. And two, once I got into real estate was, okay, so I'm an entrepreneur now, I guess. I work for myself now, sort of. I don't have any product. I just run around and try to connect people through real estate. And if they like it, they pay me a percentage of the purchase price or of the rental amount for the year. This is weird. Sure, I'll do that job. But there's so much you can't control. You can't control what the buyer's feelings are, the emotions, the job market. At that time, it was 2008, right?
Yeah,
my first day in the business was the day Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy. So my first couple of years, I just thought everyone gets fired all the time. Like jobs are just, they're few and far between. No one has any money. No one can get a loan, right? Yeah. What are you, crazy? I didn't know what it was like before. I just thought everything was impossible. And that second quote is, if you take care of the work will take care of you. Which really, really helped me, because some people are so focused on the clients, or they're so focused on the deals, or they're so focused on the money that they lose focus. And if you put your focus on the work, then you can totally control the work.
That's right.
All day, every day. And by default, deals will happen, clients will materialize, and you will make money. And then the smarter you work, the more you work, the more that will happen. And then you'll look back and say, wow, I had no control over any of these people, but I had control over the work, and I had the best year I've ever had. Yeah. Weird how that happens.
Yeah. So take me through how you went from the rentals to getting into, let's say, your first $1 million sale.
So
what was that transition?
Yeah. Well, my first sale came through my rental clients, honestly.
Of course. Sure. Right.
And that's the advice I give to anyone starting off is, listen, don't go after big whales. You have no experience. Why would anyone ever hire you? Go after the business that other people don't want. Go after what's closable. And so for me, when I started, like, no one wants to do a $2,000 a month, 6th floor walk-up rental. Like, that sucks. But if you have $0 and you have no experience, guess what? You get to do that, and people will trust you with it, because that's also an apartment like maybe you would live in, right? Like you would live in that with your roommate, split it, $1,000 a month each, right? That's you. And so you can talk to clients from a point of reference that way. But some of my first deals came from renters and from posting ads on, back in the day, I used to post ads on Craigslist, because that's where everyone went. Like,
sure.
Zillow. I mean, if there was, maybe there was Zillow, I don't remember, but definitely not in New York City. So if you wanted to find an apartment in New York, you went to Craigslist or you went to the New York Times.
That's right.
And so Craigslist was free, and you could post any photo of anything ever. And so I would just find cool listings and put them up on Craigslist. They get buried in the feed really quick, but then people would call. And I started working with buyers in parts of Queens, like Long Island City and Astoria. And so that was an easier market for me because the price points were lower. And what I found was that buyers in that part of New York, once they made the decision to be there, then they weren't really looking elsewhere. And there are so many places they could buy. Versus Manhattan, like if I got a client who wanted to buy in Manhattan, they wanted the Upper East Side on Tuesday, they'd want the Upper West Side on Thursday. By Saturday, they'd want to be downtown. Next weekend, they want to be in Brooklyn. The next weekend after that, they'd be fired and lose their job. Because we were in the middle of the Great Recession. People who wanted to be in Long Island City just were far more stable for some reason. And so that's where I really cut my teeth on how to sell. And so I'd get buyers that way. And then one of those buyers turned into one of my first listings ever at 3 Hanover Square, apartment 10L, for $399,000 that I had to personally paint, obviously. And we sold that for $369,000. And that turned into a listing at Sterling Plaza, 250 East 49th Street. They turned into a deal at 635 West 42nd Street on the 21st floor. And I mean, I can tell you every deal ever, but that then
can't. I mean, I was just going to call you like the Rain Man of real estate. How do you remember all these things?
Dude,
how's that even possible?
In New York City, every deal is traumatizing.
Well, that's true.
As if I was being beaten by like a bamboo whip. Like the apartment numbers, the clients' names. I remember the fire in their eyes. Like they're just, I don't know. They take that part of your brain because they're super tough.
Very all traumatic.
Deal,
That's crazy.
But I also used to do, the way I really got into, let's say, like the luxury market in New York, which at the time was 5 million plus, but now it's probably 10 million plus.
Sure.
Was kind of, again, what I said before was, I went after the listings other people didn't want. So like, why would I try to go pitch a seller that's meeting with 12 other brokers, 11 of whom are way better, way more experienced, and, have better resumes than I do? I could do it, maybe good and I did, good for experience, but a total crapshoot, and one that I would probably lose most of the time, which I did. Or I could go after the sellers no one wanted because they were really difficult, or the properties were impossible, or they were just too expensive. But for me, like, if you have no listings and no business, then you don't really care.
Right.
I just wanted to plant flags. So, okay. So if I go on any other agent's website, and I see just tons of big money listings, I don't know if they're real or not, or if this person is good or bad, but it seems like they have listings, and number of listings equates to legitimacy. And the more inventory you control, the more market share you can control, the better you can control your income. And so I started going after expireds that were just notorious for being terrible. And one of them was 45 West 67th Street, apartment 15 ABC, which was this smorgasbord of an apartment that was totally cut up and smashed together, really tough. The building was wrapped in scaffolding. It had like 8-foot ceilings, really, really hard. And the sellers, it was probably like a $4 or $5 million apartment, and the sellers wanted $10 million. Wow. And so they believe they were from Florida. They didn't really understand the New York market. Really tough people. Really tough. Slightly bipolar. And they had gone through like 6 brokers. And so, I reached out to them and said, listen, I believe in your pricing. This is what I can do better than anybody else. Also, I'm 26 and I will die for your apartment. Give me a shot. Give me 1 month. I know the standard is 180 days. Just give me a month. Let me see what I can do. And at that point, they had exhausted all their other options. So they were like, okay, fine, sure. But I did get them actually to agree to adjust the price to 8.5, which was still a solid like $3.5 million overpriced in 2009 and 2010, which is, which was, not a time that you want to overprice anything.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I ended up selling that apartment to an overseas buyer who found me on the internet.
Wow.
That deal took 1 year to close. It took years and years and years off my life. It taught me everything that I need to know about how to deal with sellers, how to deal with buyers, how to ward off potential litigation.
Sure.
I mean, it was boot camp.
The school of hard knocks. That's crazy.
The worst. That deal. Well, I will tell my grandkids about it.
Now I know why you remember every address.
Exactly. And then from there, I did a couple more deals in Long Island City, and a developer out of the blue reached out to our office and was like, no one else is selling in our building in Long Island City. Who are you people? What is this name of your firm that makes the Bird's Nest? What? Do you guys want to come help us sell out the rest of the building? And at that time I was like, nah, I don't want to because to me that felt like a temp job. It felt like, be in one building and just sell apartments in one building. That sucks. And I turned it down because it was in Long Island City and I didn't want to be the king of Queens. And then that developer came back to us like a month later and just said, listen, we have another building in the financial district, 99 John Street, 442 apartments. Our sales team is not cutting it. Do you want to come in and sell the building for us? And so I went and interviewed for that one, got that one. Shortly thereafter, $1 million listing, started casting for auditions. I went to an open casting call with 3,000 brokers. They asked me what I was working on. I said I had a whole building. They're like, wow, because they were from LA. So they were like, they were like, wow, that's so New York, whole condo building. And I was like, yep, yes, I do. They're like, how long you been in the business? And I was like, a long time. Amongst other questions they asked me. And then the rest is history, man.
And you got cast.
Yeah, 10 months later.
Yeah.
That was a crazy process in and of itself. But then I used that show to open doors. The show didn't open any doors for me. No one called, no one wrote, no one gave a shit. No one calls anyone they see on TV. But if I reach out to somebody and I mention it all of a sudden now I have a hook that very few people have. And so I use that hook. And so
You know
all day,
what?
all night, 7 days a week.
I have to tell you, you've probably have done. I have a lot of friends that are on other reality shows, and it's like it's the way that you have used your platform has been genius, Ryan. It's been really genius because you knew what your strengths were and you knew what the power of the show was. But to your point, you had to leverage it. So, that was, to me, what you've done is genius, because you actually think about it. You've been in this, the show has been on what? You've been on the show 8 years?
Yeah, we're filming. If season 9 comes out in 2 weeks, but we've been filming it since 2010, but it's been on the air since 2012. So
okay,
it's about 9 years.
So you figure in 9 years, what you've actually done is build a global brand. That's extraordinary what those results were. I'd love to sort of like go through that trajectory, but there's so many lessons in that. Tell me how. So you started with what? A team, right? So once you were on the show, did you already have your team in place?
No.
You started your team whilst you were on the show.
Yeah, I've always sort of, and this is what I talk to now that I have my own company, it's what I talk to.
Yeah, I know. We're going to get there. It's crazy.
For us, I like to set goalposts really far away and make them really, really hard. And then what's amazing is once we get there, it seems too easy. So let's keep setting things really, really far away. And we have to be our own tiger moms. Like we've got to be our own cheerleaders because no one else will care. Like no one else cares. Like if you sell something and you tell yourself, great job. But no one else knows. And and you just look, and a book that really changed everything for me was The Fall of Advertising and the Rise of PR. What that really taught me was that advertising is pushing your message onto people that they don't want, but if you push it hard enough over a long enough period of time, they'll just assume that that's the message. Whereas PR is pulling people into your message that they think that they do want now. And if you hit people with both, especially through PR, right, you can create a brand that way. But you have to be your own promoter, and success begets success. So anytime you do anything successful, you sell anything, right? Be humble, be kind, make it about the client, but be a champion of your own success because people want to work with someone who's successful. And let people know that. And so from the very, very, very early on, like I embraced that. And I had to do the same thing when I was an actor. It was like talking about the roles I was in, the reviews, the stuff. Like you're self-congratulatory, and it's weird at the beginning, but when you realize that, wait, that's just the job, then it's not weird. It's the job. And so when the show started, I was by myself. And I quickly got myself like an unpaid assistant and an unpaid intern because I needed help because I was selling a building downtown. And then the show was like, okay, we'll do one episode about that building. But season 1 is 10 episodes. And so then you have 9 more episodes that you have to sell something different in every single episode. So you got to go sell 9 other things, totally different. All your sellers have to agree to go on camera. They all have to be big money listings. And if you don't sell enough, we might fire you and cut you from the final edit. So we're going to film the whole first season with 4 of you. May the best 3 win.
Seriously.
And there was an agent, season 1, who filmed the whole season with us, and they cut that person at the end.
Wow. I never did that. Wow.
You think real estate is ruthless. Just go to Bravo. Like go to TV production, man.
Wow.
I lost like 20 pounds that year. Like that's the year I went gray because they would say, wow, so crazy, Ryan, this listing that you want us to shoot with you. So 3 million, huh? Interesting. In like 5, 6, we just shot a 10 million to sell. I need to be great. And then it was NBC Universal putting pressures on me. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. You froze for a second.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying that it's there's a lot of pressure on us in that first season to go big or go home. And what I really learned was, okay, what really changed, right? I got 9 listings. I figured it out. I cold called. I met people on the street. I did everything, expired, FISBOs, you name it, anything. One of the listings I got, I read about in the New York Post, this guy being sued by his board. And I found out how to reach out to that guy. And I reached to that guy and I was like, hey, see being sued by your board. Want to put your apartment on TV? Want to really screw them over? Let's do it. And that guy agreed. So like it was, but so then I had this business and I was building up this tiny little name for myself, but it's not like there was a secret sauce. It was just this ridiculous pressure, public embarrassment, and pushed me to work even harder and to work smarter and to work for results. And that stuck with me for a long, long time. And season 2, same thing. Season 3, right? I just knew like, damn, okay. All right. They kept me on. I'm going to stay here. I want to do bigger things. I want to do even better things. And something else that someone had told me, Richard Rubenstein, who's a big Rubenstein PR is one of like the biggest public relations firms ever. And Richard Rubenstein told me when I first got cast on the show, he's like, here's the best piece of advice you're ever going to get. Go big, go hard, and make sure you film the person you want to be when the show comes out. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I thought about it, and what he meant was, all right, so I'm going to film this show about the agent that I am today in 2010. But it's not going to come out till 2012 or something. Hopefully I'm doing better business in 2 years, but it's not going to mean anything to me because people are going to watch me as the agent I was 2 years ago.
That's brilliant advice.
Tell myself into the future now. I got to do business on TV today that is indicative of the agent I want to be in the future. So I got to start being future me now. I got to carry myself with that level of confidence. I got to be able to go into those types of pitches. I got to put myself out there. And if I'm successful at it, people will believe that that's what I do. I sell buildings. Boom. All right. Put it on TV. Developers, when I go to them, hey, it's just on TV with this whole development. Oh, okay. So you do that. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Awesome. Because success begets success, right? If you
absolutely. And then you now sort of like came in and you had the platform and now you built the business because you had the team, right? And now the team turned into what is a brokerage now, because now you've started your own brokerage. So there was a lot of layers there, right? So you started with your own success. You started with the brand that was Ryan, and you were starting to film into the future version of yourself that people were starting to buy into, right? And so now you have a real viable business. Now you've become not just yourself and your business, but now you've got a team, and now you've got a team in various cities around the globe, really, because you also were doing London, right? So you had teams around the globe. So how did that all now create? Now you have to create a culture, because now you have a company. Now it's not just Ryan selling real estate. Now it's the Serhant team in various cities around the globe. How did you create that culture? Because when people and developers wanted to work with Ryan, they expected that any of the team members were representative of what you were already offering.
Loaded question. Listen, before we started the company, I knew early on that I couldn't do everything by myself. And that I should only focus all day, every day on what I do best. Everything else, I should have other people. And I would see these people like trying to do 10 jobs at once, running around with their heads cut off like chickens. And they were so busy. And then all they did was complain about the market, complain about their clients. They're always exhausted. And it was just, I'm like, yeah, but you spent 4 hours writing an email. Like you spent 6 hours prepping on listing to go to market. Like you, that's not what you're hired to do. You are, and I am, focused solely on building brand and building business. All in all. Like that is it. Even talking to you right now, like there are agents and people that'll listen to this that have never known me or heard of me before. And that's me building brand, right? I want people to know, and maybe they'll refer me deals or take our sales course or buy the books or watch me in our listing, whatever. Everything else can be done by other people. And so I started to figure out how to use people, and in a good way, and leverage them and multiply. So I could be in as many different places as I possibly could. So, I can't be on the Upper East Side and Dumbo, Brooklyn at the same time. So I want to find a junior agent that can help me uptown. I want to find a junior agent that can help me over here. Now, by proxy, I'm a resident agent of 2 different neighborhoods.
Right.
And let's expand. And let's just keep going. And then those agents would get too busy. And then I would have to bring on other people and find other people and bring them on. And then I wanted to move faster. And so I brought in my own operations people. And then I wanted to do design faster. So I brought in our own graphic designers. And then I didn't want to have to worry about Excel sheets on Saturdays when I was calculating commissions. And so we brought in an accounting firm for my own team. So we basically built a company within a company, and, just started selling a lot. And then fast forward to 2019 and made the decision of, again, 2006, I moved to New York City because I'd rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried. And I don't ever want to pass up an opportunity, and even if it's terrifying. So I should always do kind of what's terrifying. Otherwise, I'll forever be uncomfortable in complacency. And I'm not okay with just being okay.
Right.
So next year, 2020, it'll be my 12-year anniversary in this business. I'm going to leave and I'm going to start my own firm. And we're going to do things a bit differently as best we possibly can. And so we started setting that up. And then COVID hits and the world shuts down. And everyone I have been talking to tells me not to do it. Pause, wait, hold tight. Every deal dies. Shit show. The office we were going to lease falls apart, like everything. I'm in New Hampshire, quarantined with an asthmatic mother-in-law and a baby, like we thought freaking zombies were going to take over Manhattan. Like it was crazy times a year ago. And then the next day I woke up, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I got into this business the day Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy. And in hindsight, it was the best time ever to start. Low expectations, right, and tough for everybody. So I don't want to start a brand new real estate firm in New York City when the market's hot and everyone expects you to. Let's do it now. Let's make the biggest noise we can now, because the last thing anyone in their right mind would do when 1 million people move out of New York City, there are tents in Central Park and bodies along the FDR, is start a real estate brokerage company.
That's some big money energy right there, isn't it?
Yeah, or just pure ignorance. And ignorance is bliss for a reason. Yeah. And so we did that and started from scratch, man. We spent the summer creating the brand, creating the content, really taking the core, administrative team that I'd really built, expanding it, building it out, like through Zoom, like through Zooms and through like masked cover of darkness. I rented us a townhouse in Tribeca, where we could really prove our business model and build out that culture and show people what we were trying to do, and just to see if it worked. And we hit the little red button 12 years to the day that I got into the business. Wall Street Journal profile piece about our new company on September 15th, 2020. That was day one for us. And legally, we became licensed because we couldn't file a license previously. Otherwise, someone else would find out about it and write about it. So we did it on October 1st. That's when we finally became licensed that day. And so it's been, almost 7 months.
That is an amazing story. Amazing story. I want to sort of ask you a little bit about your work-life balance, right? Because everyone has really seen your life play out on television, and you marrying and having and becoming a dad and doing all of that. And there's some really wonderfully emotional, vulnerable moments that you've had when you really felt the responsibility of everything that you were building, including your family. And it was really beautiful. I think that's where people really connect to you so well, Ryan, because you're so human, right? And you're so relatable. And so tell me about sort of the responsibility of building that legacy for your family. What was sort of that life work balance that really, because everything that you do large, right? And so you want to make sure that your family was taken care of, that you had the legacy in place, that you built this incredible brand. How do you balance all that?
I don't really.
That's an awesome answer.
You know, I try to be as clear as possible with expectations, because it's lying and miscommunication that'll kill any relationship, right? And it's expectations that aren't set. So people are like, dude, work-life balance. How do I do this? How do I do this? It's like, because you never actually sat down with your partner or your family and said, hey, I love to work. I really want to build a business. Can you guys help me do that? I really want to do it. It would make me really, really, really happy. You don't. You just wake up, you go to the office, you come home, you're tired, the kids are there, whatever. You're stressed on the weekend. Like, you don't ever have those conversations. And so, you know, I made it really clear. So I have a, you know, now, so we have a baby now, she's 2 years old. And my deal is that I am home 2 nights a week, Monday through Friday, before the baby goes to bed, so I can see the baby, give her a bath, which is a total fiasco. And then after that, I can go back to email and phone calls, or go back out in an appointment if I have to. Yeah. And then if I'm in town, not traveling, then Saturdays are for the baby. And then I try to do like a date night once or twice a month, which during COVID was hard to do. And that works for now. Yeah, I like it. Definitely not perfect, but it's, you know, regimented, which can suck. But it's what works, and it's what gets it done. And everyone knows my focus is on the company. My focus is on work, and that I'll stop at nothing to make sure that it is the greatest success in the history of the known universe.
I love this. And so tell me what the greatest lesson you've learned in your career thus far has been. So many, man. The greatest lesson that I've learned, I would say that I'm trying to think of like, what's the greatest? There's been so many lessons that I've kind of talked about now, about, you know, just like, you know, living for the future, right, has probably been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And positioning yourself as the future person that you want to be, so that you can live the absolute fullest life that you ever possibly could. And so that you don't leave anything on the table, so that you don't ever regret anything, right? I think the show helped me understand that. I don't know if I ever would have really truly understood that if it weren't for that. But it was also, you know, losing clients, right? Losing clients, and then clients like dying. Like you're in the real estate business, and you witness a lot of shit. You know, death, divorce, everything, and you realize how short life is. And 2020 really, really showed us that as well. And so it's, you know, go for broke, live for the future, because once the day is over, it's done. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know, it's probably like the biggest lesson that makes the most sense to talk about right now. I love that. So I have one final question for you. So in your book of life, what is this chapter called?
Oh, part 2. I think it's like the second book. It's like Lord of the Rings, like the second.
It's a trilogy.
Yeah, basically, like part 1 was like the origin story, the craziness, the real estate ring, right? The damn mountain, and now we're in like part 2, like flip the DVD over. You know, who knows what's going to happen now? People don't have DVDs anymore, but it's. I don't know. I think that's kind of what this part is for me. And so it was totally freaky last year. Like I had a team of 65 agents that I could not take with me. So we had to leave behind.
Wow.
It was really, really, really hard.
Wow.
So, but it forced me to put my back up against a wall and say, okay, how do I not miss a beat? And how do I build again from scratch?
Yep.
During a time when like you wouldn't ever want to do this.
Sure.
And you become the most creative, the most adaptive, the most flexible when your back is up against a wall. And I know that I'm that type of person, you know, especially like financially. I put myself into financial conundrums all the time, things that freak me out. And I know myself, I will figure out a way. I will figure out a way somehow, some way that in hindsight, it's always going to feel like, oh man, remember when that was a big deal? Damn. You know? And I think I'm just that type of person that needs to be pushed a little bit. And I was the same way, like in theater school, right? The directors I had that just sort of let us do the lines and do the parts, like had no effect on me. I can't even remember who they are, but it was the ones who would really, really, really push. They would push till they got the absolute best out of you, which is why probably one of my favorite movies ever is that movie Whiplash, right? Yeah. With J.K. Simmons, like that, right? Like you have greatness inside of you, but if someone isn't there to beat the shit out of you to get it out of you, then you might be leaving that greatness on the table.
That's it, man. I love it. Ryan, thank you so much, my brother, for this interview, but also for everything that you do. You inspire so many people, and it is so wonderful to see you living your dream and really what you have created, reaching a culmination on such a global scale. It's such a pleasure just to sort of watch your journey. So thank you so much for sharing your time with me today.
Of course. I mean, I just have to say, you know, nothing I've ever done has been by myself. There is an incredible team of people around me who have helped, who have promoted, who have believed in what we've done. And I really, 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 really live and work for the people that do this with me and stand alongside with me, because they're just as crazy as me.
You need crazy. It attracts, right? Crazy attracts.
Yeah, you know what? I should interview everyone that works with me and turn the camera on them.
Do the whole series of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan, thank you so very much. I really enjoyed having you on the show. Really enjoyed this conversation and just your candor. And it's just, who knew how funny you were? This is good.
Who knew? Talk to you later.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you all of you for listening. This has been the Global Luxury Real Estate Mastermind with me, your host, Michael Valdez.